Hello, my name is Ava Monet Adams, and today I'm going to be presenting a slideshow presentation about the danger of unlabeled AI content online. So every day there are millions of people as they're scrolling through videos, images, and content uploaded online, and nowadays it's impossible to know whether these things are real or artificially created using artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence can now create realistic videos, clone voices, and fake images that are almost impossible to distinguish from the real thing. As this technology becomes more advanced, the risk of manipulation increases. So in this presentation, I'm going to argue that our government should Hello, my name is Ava Monet Adams, and today I'm going to be presenting a presentation about the danger of unlabeled AI content online. So every day, millions of people scroll through videos, images, and audio clips online without knowing whether they are authentic or artificially created. Artificial intelligence can now create realistic videos, clone voices, and generate fake images that are almost impossible to distinguish from authentic content. As technology becomes more advanced, the risk of manipulation increases. In this presentation, I am going to present my argument as to why governments should require social media platforms to clearly label when content is AI generated in order to reduce misinformation, protect users from deception, and preserve the public trust online. So AI-generated misinformation is becoming harder and harder to detect. As you can see here in this image, this is something that was actually uploaded in the news, and BBC confirmed that this is actually AI generated, so it was being used to push a false agenda, even though it's not true. And of course that wasn't disclosed to everybody watching. So governments should require that social media platforms label AI generated content to reduce the spread of misinformation and protect the trust of the public. In 2024 and 2025, AI-generated videos and images spread rapidly across social media during elections, celebrity scandals, and financial scams. Many users could not tell the difference between authentic content and artificially generated media. Some experts warn that as artificial intelligence improves, fake content will become even more convincing than it already is. My thesis is that the government should require the social media companies to label AI-generated content because overall, unlabeled AI-generated media threatens the trust of the public, which is very important, and it increases manipulation and creates serious social risks within our country. Sorry, my computer is being super laggy today. Okay, here we go. What is AI-generated content? So these are things like deepfakes, AI-generated images, voice cloning, and AI-written articles and posts. So AI-generated content includes the deepfake videos, voice cloning technology, fake images, and automatically written articles or social media posts. Deepfakes use artificial intelligence to realistically alter someone's face or voice into a video. Voice cloning tools can imitate a person's speech patterns with super surprising accuracy, and these technologies are becoming widely available and easier for everyday users to access and use for their own agendas. So here's the problem, and that is misinformation and manipulation. Unlabeled AI-generated content creates serious problems. Fake political videos can spread information during elections. Manipulated media can damage reputations or influence the public's opinion before being proven false or true. Criminals now use clone voices in scams to imitate family members or to impersonate authority figures in order to gain the trust and overall take advantage of everyday people like you and me. When fake content spreads faster than fact-checking efforts, people begin to lose trust in everything they see online, which is very dangerous. So why does it matter? This issue matters because trust is essential in our society. Democracies depend on informed citizens to make decisions based on reliable information. If people cannot distinguish the fabricated media, public trust completely goes away. Researchers and cybersecurity experts warn that AI misinformation could increase political polarization, financial fraud, and social instability. This is no longer a future problem because, as we can see, it is already happening. I'm sure you've already seen the effects of it, as have I. So here's the solution. I would say that the solution is not banning artificial intelligence, because that is, of course, impossible, and it is super useful for many things, but AI technology has become just something that we need to look out for. So instead, I think that government should require social media platforms to clearly label the AI generated or digitally altered content, as I said before. Similar to warning labels or sponsored content disclosures, the labels would increase the transparency to the public and help users evaluate what they're actually viewing. And this image here is something that this has actually come from Meta. So Facebook is already doing this. I think Instagram has started doing this, although it is not required by the government. So there are many social media platforms that haven't begun to do this yet. But as you can see, it says that these images has a little badge that says AI info. So it lets the viewer know that this is not actually true, and you shouldn't trust that this is something that's authentic versus artificially generated. So why does labeling help? Labeling AI generated content would help users approach suspicious materials with more critical thinking than they would if it was not labeled. The transparency gives people additional context before they react emotionally or share and reshare the content online on their platforms. Labels would not completely eliminate misinformation, but they would reduce deceptive practices and encourage more informed decision making when it comes to seeing these posts online. So here's my slide for counter arguments and my personal rebuttal. First one would be that some critics argue that requiring labels could threaten free expression. I say, however, that labeling content does not remove or censor it, as it doesn't, but I think that it just simply provides users with transparency and helps them discern real from fake, which is so important. Other people argue that users should verify information independently, and although I can definitely agree that critical thinking is important, it's an important skill and we should all be practicing it, especially in today's times. AI generated deception is becoming increasingly more sophisticated and much harder to detect, especially for people of the older population, when technology is not really something that they are very well adapted to, and they didn't grow up with it, and they already are not very great at using it. When something like this that's very foreign to them comes along, it can be very hard for them to even begin to know how to start to identify it. So these labels could really help with that. Another criticism is that regulation may be difficult to enforce. However, many industries already require disclosure standards, and I think that the difficulty should not prevent society from addressing serious risks, because if we did that for everything, I don't think a lot of things would get solved. So here is my call to action. Social media companies and governments must act before the public trust declines even further than it already has. Citizens can support legislation promoting AI transparency and demand accountability from technology companies. Schools should also teach more digital literacy skills so that users can actually better evaluate the content that they're seeing on their own without relying on things such as this. I think if society fails to address this issue now, the deception online is just going to become increasingly more impossible and difficult to recognize, and it is already so difficult to recognize. I think we could all agree. So here's my conclusion. I think that transparency protects the trust of the public. So furthermore, artificial intelligence will continue shaping the future of communication, but technological progresses should not come at the cost of truth and public trust, as I think so many facets of our society rely on those things outside of just this. Because if people start not trusting the media, they're going to be misinformed about elections and not trusting things that are actually true, and it's going to just lead to a super slippery slope of decline in people know what's actually going on around them, things that they need to know to make informed decisions in our world. Sorry, a little caveat, but requiring labels for AI generated content would increase transparency, reduce deception, and protect society from manipulation. In a world where seeing is no longer always believing, as so many people have been used to in the past, transparency matters now more than it ever has before. So, one persuasive strategy that I used was logos, or otherwise known as logical appeal. I relied on cause and effect reasoning and evidence showing how AI generated misinformation can influence public trust, scams, and political misinformation. I used many different logical arguments to explain why labeling would help improve the transparency to the public. So I also used ethos by including information from credible experts and organizations studying artificial intelligence and misinformation. Excuse me. And using expert sources strengthens audience trust because the argument is supported by professional research more than just my own personal opinion, which helps people feel a lot more comfortable in trusting you and what you're saying. So finally, I use pathos carefully by discussing how these artificial intelligence generated scams and misinformation can emotionally affect individuals and society as a whole. I believe I used emotional appeal to emphasize the seriousness of the issue while still keeping the argument grounded in evidence and logic, like we talked about previously. So here's my works cited page, and I hope you enjoyed, and that is all. Bye.